Your work has been so thoughtful about automation, the impact of technology on the way in which we can be productive. Do you think we'd really get to a 4-day work week?
I think so, yes. I think it's feasible. I mean, let me put it that way. If you see the skills or the competences that companies are demanding now, they are most in demand, it's basically down to data processing. Data is the big resource that companies have now. It's data processing and it's communication of that processing to both to subordinates and line managers. Now, when you get a technology like ChatGPT or other language models, you basically have the analysis of that data right in front of you, ready, much faster than humans can do it. Well, that's what we mean by higher productivity. And
Professor,
if we can get the machinery to do it, then obviously then we have spare time ourselves and we have the money because we are more productive at the same time.
Professor Pissarides, we asked our audience if they share your optimism on the impact of generative AI and a 4-day work week. This is what they had to say. The results, 52% of respondents, 53% saying that a 4-day work week is coming soon because of generative AI. 29% of them said not in our lifetime. What is the timeline that you see? Is this a decade out from being true?
I would think so. I would place it at a decade, yeah. I was thinking 2030 maybe, but these things are usually slower. And actually, if I were to recommend it or advise someone about it, I would advise to be slower because it is going to require some readjustments of the things we're doing. I mean, not least about families, schooling, education. You know, I mean, we might have 4-day week in the labor market, but you do have to take into account what happens with schools, for example. Do they also have a 4-day week? What happens with public services? What happens with the people who work there? You know, it's a complicated universe. But it's feasible, and if there is will, we're going to find a way.
Well, you won your Nobel Prize for work on the impact of regulation on policy on the labour market. So is it regulation and policy that needs to sort of be the cart that leads the horse here?
Yes, the key problem is the combination of good regulation, so it doesn't stifle the labour market, which is basically what I studied for my Nobel-winning work, which we call frictions, and at the same time making sure that it allows enough flexibility to the people to show their individual talents in the labour market, you know, to sort of unleash that talent, if you like, and do the things they're doing best, which in my work I call matching and the quality of matching. So essentially, the way that the labour market will work in the best way is to improve the match between the worker and the capital equipment that worker has, and I would include computers and software as the capital equipment that the worker has. And at the same time, make sure that it's sufficiently well regulated that it doesn't lead to fraud, to abuse of the technology, as I mentioned before. You know, these technologies are very difficult to monitor. And they are open to abuse, and we need to work very hard to think how to avoid that.
So, Christopher, to that point, I mean, you led a Nuffield-funded review of the effects of automation on jobs. And a lot of the time, there is a pushback from individuals, from unions, from a nervousness of what it means for all of us. We see it in school children at the moment. We see it in people coming through university, people terrified of what generative AI really means for their skill set. How important is it to win hearts and minds and make sure that everyone feels that this actually builds on their skills, not detracts from them or puts them out of work?
Exactly. We need to train people. We need to give better information and show that it doesn't require that much upskilling to ensure that you can have a good job. You see, unfortunately, that comes from two different directions, the way I see it. One of them is that people are naturally conservative and they fear change. You know, if they're set in their ways, we're okay. You know, what's all these new technologies that are going to disrupt us? They're going to make us change. That's the way that unions, for example, especially in Europe, actually, that's the way they look at it, and they try to draw you back. Now we have to educate them somehow. When we say we have, it's not really so much up to the academics like myself, but also the relevant government departments, the employers, associations, that throughout modern history, technology has changed our lives and it's changed it for the better. I mean, just think if we resisted electricity, for example, now, where we would be. You know, I mean, we had so many. You know, if we resisted it, we wouldn't have all those appliances in our homes that have made life so much easier. So that's one direction that is coming. The other one is that a lot of what you read now and what you hear about new technologies is about how many jobs will be lost. You know,
exactly.
We have 300 million jobs, but they never talk about how many jobs are going to be created because of that.
Look, Professor Pissarides, this is the human tension in the story, right? Will my job be eliminated by artificial intelligence tools? Are there specific sectors, specific areas of the technology industry where you think, yeah, generative AI is just going to eliminate the need for a certain role?
Oh, you can think of plenty of those. You know, I mean, take legal assistance. What is a legal assistant? The job may have gone already. If it hasn't gone, it will go already. You basically have a lawyer who needs an assistant to go through all previous court cases, through all those legal books, through all those archives to find all the information that is relevant to your case. Well, now just ask ChatGPT, tell me about such and such a case, what do we know? And you get 3 or 4 pages with all the information that your legal assistant will have got working 24/7 for several days. You know, there are jobs that will disappear, but those people, they are educated, they are highly trained people. They can be more creative than sitting in dark archive rooms going through pages and pages of script.
So, Christopher, Caroline and I have played with many of these generative AI tools. We've experimented using them for scripts in television news. I think both of us are relatively confident we won't be out of the job, at least in 2023. What other areas of the economy is productivity unlocked? Forget about replacing jobs. How does this make money for global economies? Really quick.
Okay, number one is data processing. If we use these technologies to generate more data, then all businesses would benefit from knowing more about their customer. You know, the famous KYC, know your customer. We can get better information. And if we have better information, we can target our market in a much better way, less time, more productivity, more money. And that's why I'm saying that we're going to have enough money that we can go on a 4-day week and have an extra day on the weekend, which is wonderful. At least from where I'm sitting here, it would be wonderful to have one extra day.